Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following confession that you're going to be listening to, it comes from a message that we received, and it reads like this. My name is Danielle. If you saw me a long time ago, you would think and believe what I would have told you, that I was going to be the next big thing. I was 23 years old. I was a student at Stellenbosch University, drove a Golf 7 that my father had bought for me for my 21st birthday. My dad, he was already the king of tenders. He got government contracts for roads, hospitals, you name it. We lived in a beautiful house in Bryanston that had a cinema room and a 6-car garage. My younger siblings were in private schools that cost more than most of people's yearly salaries. We were the It family. We had made it. My dad was ultra rich, and I was so happy about the life that we were living. But in the blink of an eye, the empire that my dad had been building, it crumbled to the ground. And you know why? It was because of SARS. They came for my father. They did not just ask any questions. When my dad started to talk about him being in trouble, we just thought that it was a phase that was going to pass, because my dad before, he had been owing people money that amounted to millions, but this time it was different. My father was like, it is like there is someone that does not want me to make money. And it all started after we had gone to KZN. You see, what happened to my dad was that his parents, they broke up when he was still very young. And then later on, after the old man was very old, when he learned that my dad now had money, that was when he said, I want to see you, son, before I die. And my mother, she refused. She said, we are not going to go to KZN. And my father, being him, he was like, I want to go and see my father, because he never had that opportunity to grow up being around his father, and he just wanted to have some connection with his own father. But my mother was refusing, because my mother, it was as if she knew that they did not want to see my father succeeding like the way that he had succeeded, because he had done all his things on his own. My father was raised by his own mother's relatives here in Joburg, and my mother did not want my father to associate with his father's relatives, because she said that they are poisonous. They hated you when you did not have money. Now that they know that you are making money, now they are saying that you are supposed to return back to KZN to see your father. And they wanted to bring our grandfather to KZN, but my mother was refusing for that to happen. We then finally went to KZN for the meeting with the relatives. It was so exciting to be around your blood relatives, but there were some rituals that my dad was supposed to do in front of his father, and he was saying that he thinks that he got the bad luck from those rituals that were being done when we were in KZN. Returning back to Joburg, that was when the SARS came for my father, and it was quite terrible. They did not just ask questions, they froze every single account. The sheriff of the court came for the cars, the furniture, and eventually the house. My father, a man who used to be a big boss, we had so many workers, he was always stressed at all the times. And we saw for the first time my mother and my mother fighting, shouting at each other. As for my dad, he was always quiet. He was like a ghost of himself. The stress broke my parents' marriage. My mother left with nothing but her clothes and had to move back to her sister's place in Soweto, and I had to drop out of university. Moving from a mansion in Bryanston to a 4-room house in Soweto is a special kind of hell that I don't even wish on my enemies. I hated it. I hated everything. I grew up in a quiet neighborhood where you were not even allowed to make so much noise. Even when you play music, that you can only hear in your own house. And I grew up really without any friends. Most of my friends, they were online friends. But now when I moved to Soweto, everything was noisy. Everyone will be playing their own music. The weekends, when you stay in the suburbs, you don't even know if it is a weekend because everything is just quiet. Everything stays the same. It is done in a particular way, but in the locations, when people have money, everyone gets noisy. People fight. They stab each other. And the way that people looked at me, I was once a rich boy. I would take my father's car and I would drive it to the location to visit my cousin brothers and sisters. Now, from being a rich boy to a nobody, I started spending my days at a car wash in Deep Kloof. It was a popular spot where the big boys from Joburg South and the Nigerians from Rosettenveld came to clean their luxury SUVs. They would pull up in G-Wagons, Range Rovers, and it was something that was quite depressing because I knew that kind of a lifestyle. I used to be part of that lifestyle, and then that was when I met a man whom I will call Sia. Sia, he was someone that was always at that car wash, always talking. He spoke about everything, and he drove a black G-Wagon with a custom number plate. He was South African, but he always hung around with high-flyer Nigerians. One afternoon, whilst I was sitting on a plastic crate, Sia walked up to me. He looked at my sneakers. They were quite old, and they were still original. And he was like, "Yo, is that Balenciaga?" And I was like, "Yes, boss." And he was like, "You look like a boy who knows quality, but your pockets, they look empty, mfana." When he said this, I felt so depressed even more, and I already had a problem with depression. I told my story to this guy, and I was experiencing depression because my mother's relatives, whenever I would tell them that I used to take some antidepressants when I used to stay in Bryanston, they would laugh at me and they will say that it is a disease for rich people. You can't be depressed in Soweto. You have to wake up, because whenever I would be depressed, I would spend the whole day just sleeping, not wanting to eat or to do anything. So they were like, "You are no longer in Bryanston, you are now in Soweto. Here, depression does not work. You have to wake up and you have to do your house duties." So they did not understand me. I told him my story, how I was suffering from depression, how I could not even afford to get those antidepressants that I used to take before. I told him that we used to be rich and my dad used to be a tenderpreneur, and I would do anything to get back to the life that I used to have. Sia smiled, and when he smiled at me, I just felt weird, because the way that he was looking at me, it was really weird. And he was like to me, "I need a driver, Daniel." And I said, "Okay." And he said that I need someone who is smart, someone that can keep his mouth shut, and someone who does not mind being given orders. "I'll pay you 30,000 a month just to be my chauffeur." And I was like, 30K? When can I start? And he said, "Any day that you want to start." I did not even ask a lot of questions. The job was easy at first. I would pick up Sia from his penthouse in Senton and drive him to different meetings. But the weird part started a week later. Every 2 days, Sia would give me a black heavy-duty refuse bag. He told me that I had to drive it to Robinson Deep Landfill, and I used to go there alone. Later on, I would go with his gardener. It is a massive dumping site far from Senton, near the Taffontein area. And when I would go there, you will be like, "Don't throw this into any general bin. You have to drive deep into the site where the scavengers don't go. Drop it there and leave it immediately, and do not look at the refuse bag after you would have removed it from the boot of the car." Sometimes we would go with a small trailer carrying the refuse from the house. For a month, I did this blindly, but the curiosity, it got the best of me. One Friday, the bag was leaking strange blood-like stuff. and I pulled over on the side of the road after I had been stopped by the traffic cop, and they asked me what I had in the boot of the car. And I said, it's some refuse that I'm taking to the dumping area. And I saw that there was sort of like blood that was coming out from the boot of the car. And those guys, they did not even open the refuse bag because it was so smelly. And when I opened, my heart was racing because this was refuse stuff that I had taken from someone that was rich. I expected to see drugs or money. Instead, what I saw, the bag was filled with hundreds of used women's G-strings that were old, and I saw bloody sanitary pads. It looked like someone had raided the dustbin of 1,000 women. When I got back to the penthouse, I could not hide my face. Sia was sitting on his balcony looking at me, and when he looked at me, he got angry and he said, Daniel, what did you do? Then he got into the house. I could literally hear him as he was running down the stairs, and he came out at me. He was angry, and I said, I'm really sorry, boss. I made a mistake. And he was like, you opened the bag, didn't you, Daniel? I started shaking. I had never seen Sia so angry like that. He then said, let's get into the house and you can ask me any question that you want to ask me. I was shaking. I thought that he was going to kill me. I asked him and I said, Sia, I saw something in the black refuse bag. Are you a serial killer? He laughed at me when I said, why do you have all of those things? Do you keep them in the house? All that he did, Sia, was that he stood up. He went upstairs, and when he came back, he walked over to me. He held up his hand, showing me a gold ring with a strange green stone that was inside the ring. And he said to me, I was like you, Daniel. My family lost everything. It was so tough being broke and poor. He then told me that he met a man whom I will call Chief Ben. He was the grandmaster of a Nigerian brotherhood right here in Joburg. They don't push drugs. They are people that do occultism. He said that he was married to a mermaid who is a queen of the seas. She gives him the millions. Everything that he has belongs to that woman. But she is a jealous wife. She does not want him to love any other woman. He can only sleep with a woman when they are on their period. That blood is the sacrifice that she demands from him. Those bags, he said to me, those bags that you dump, those are the leftovers of the rituals. The more that I collect, that is the more the money that I make, Daniel, he said to me. I wanted to just walk out of that house because of what I had had. Maybe I should have gone back to Soweto and stayed poor. But then Sia opened his banking app and he showed me a bank balance that made me to feel like I was about to collapse because of the money that I had seen in that banking app. He said, you see, this is the money that I have. It was 14 million that he told me was in his business banking app. He said that Chief Ben was looking for a new son, and Sia whispered to me and he was like, do you want to be a driver forever, or do you want to be the one that will be driven by someone who is as poor as you used to be? Because as for now, I don't see a poor man, Daniel. I see someone that is rich, even richer than I am. I looked at the G-Wagon in the driveway. I thought about my father's frozen accounts. I thought about the shame of being poor. And I was like, take me to Chief Ben, I said as I was kneeling down in front of him. 3 days later, I was on a flight to Lagos. I was not alone. Sia and 2 other Nigerians were with me. When we landed in Nigeria, it was something that was different, the culture and everything. We did not stay in the fancy parts of Lagos like Victoria Island. No, we drove for hours and hours until we reached a compound that was hidden behind high walls in a thick forest-like area. This was the headquarters of the Brotherhood of the Mermaids. Chief Ben, he was not someone that was big. He was just a small man. But when I looked at him, I felt like I was looking at a lion that was about to eat me up. He did not waste time. I was taken into a room that was completely blue. The walls, the floor, the ceiling, and they had curtains all around that room that was blue. In the center, there was a large basin of seawater, and it was as if there was something that was mixing the water, but I could not see anything inside the water. And he asked me, he said, "Do you want to become like us? Do you want to become rich, Daniel?" And I said, "Yes." And then he said to me, "If you want to become rich, know that the sea queen does not give anything for free. She will want you to do some things for her. She wants someone that is loyal, that is faithful. She wants you to give her the soul of the one that you love the most with all of your heart." I was then given a bowl that was full of blood to drink. Maybe it was about half a liter of human blood that I had to drink. As soon as I swallowed it, I felt as if my head started spinning. I saw visions of my life as they were flashing before my eyes, as if I was getting high on drugs. "You have 3 days," Chief Ben said. "You must choose. Is it your father, the man that connects you to your ancestors? Or is it going to be your mother, the woman who loves you more than the way that you love him? Do you want me to take the soul of your mother? Do you want me to cut off the umbilical cord that still connects you to your mother? You have to choose. You have to make a decision now, Daniel." He said to me, "Choose one to give to the queen, who will become your wife and give you everything that your heart desires the most. If you do not do it, you are going to lose your mind right here in Nigeria. You will never return back to South Africa. You will roam these streets as if you are a madman until the dogs eat your remains." They locked me in a small dark room. I spent the first night crying. I thought about my father. He was a broken man, but my father, he was my dad, and I could not sacrifice him, for he was my hero. I thought about my mother. She was my rock. She was my everything. How could I choose? By the second day, the madness had started. I began hearing voices of Nigerian men that were laughing at me, the same Nigerians that had came to that grandmaster to do rituals, and those that had started running mad whilst they were in that room where I was locked in. And this room, it was so dark. If you have ever been in a movie theater, the way that it is dark just before the movie begins, then you will understand how it was so dark. That is how dark this room was. I even saw men that were walking around that room, and I knew that I was about to start running mad. I heard a voice of a woman. She was so beautiful, and she had a soft voice, but it was terrifying at the same time. It sounded angelic and demonic at the same time. She kept whispering in my ear, and she will be saying, "Give me your heart. Give me the heart that loves me. Give me the heart of the person that you love the most. Give me everything that you think makes you who you are, and I will fill your pockets with gold, so much gold like you have never seen in your entire life." I realized that if I did not choose, I was going to die, and if I died, my siblings would starve. My father was already dead inside because of the SARS situation, but my mother, she was the one who actually felt the pain. On the third morning, Chief Ben came into the room. I was shivering. I was thirsty because you do not eat when you are locked inside that room. So I was starving to death, and I was beginning to lose my mind. And he said to me, "Who is the sacrifice, Daniel?" I closed my eyes, and I felt so much pain in my heart, and the greed started growing inside of me when I started thinking about the money that I was going to make. I looked down and I started crying, and I said, "My mother." He asked me and he said, shout, boy, you cannot whisper as if you are a little child. Shout, for you are now a man. You said your mother, right? And I said, yes, my mother. He asked me my mother's full name, and then I told him my mother's full name and surname. I whispered, my mother, she is the one. Take her. Chief Ben started laughing. It was a demonic laughter. He smiled. He took a long, sharp needle, pricked my finger, letting 3 drops of blood fall into the basin of the seawater. The water became red. Then it became blue again. It was clear more than the way that it was, and it was calm. It is done, Chief Ben said. Go back to your country. Go back to South Africa. Your queen is waiting for you when you return back to your country. Once you arrive in South Africa, look for a place where there is soil before you speak to a lot of people. And I want you to swallow the soil from your country. I picked up soil when I was still at OR Tambo. The first opportunity that I got to just get some soil, I quickly picked it up and I looked around and I ate the soil. 2 days after I had returned back from Nigeria, I got a call from my auntie in Soweto, and I was not supposed to see my mother whilst she was alive. I was only supposed to go and attend the funeral the day that she was going to be buried. So I lied that I was doing a peace job, and where I was, I did not even have any money to return back to Joburg. They told me that they were going to send money to me, and I said I can't go to ShopRite to collect it because I'm too far from ShopRite, but you can try to send it to me, but when I have the chance, I'll go and I will collect it. And this call that I received from my auntie, my mother had suffered a sudden massive stroke whilst she was hanging laundry. She was taken to the Baragwana hospital where she was, and I could not come back to Joburg. I was just outside of Gauteng, lying that I was doing a peace job. I had visited a friend, and after she had passed away, that was when I came to Gauteng, stayed until when it was the day that she was going to be buried, and I arrived. I could not even look at my father or my siblings. And after the burial, I went straight to a dealership in Senton where I met the guy that I went with to Nigeria, and we went to this dealership. I did not even look at the price tags. I bought a top of the range Ford Raptor. Later on, I bought a Mercedes AMG. Life was moving so well. I was making money in ways that I could not even understand or explain. But time is a strange thing when you are living on blood money. One day I was broke, crying over my mother's death. The next day, I am 38 years old, sitting in a 3-story mansion in Senton that feels like my graveyard more than my home. I have been living this life that most of you people would kill for. I have millions in offshore accounts. I have cars, a Raptor, a Porsche, and an S-Class parked in the garage that stays closed at all the times because I don't have anything else to do than to pick up slay queens, sleep with them when they are on their periods. I am the loneliest man in Joburg. You see, this wife of mine, the sea queen, is a possessive wife. When I choose my mother as a sacrifice, I did not just sign away her life. I signed away my own right to ever love another human being. The contract is clear. I belong to her and is not allowed to belong to another woman. I have not been on a date for a very long time. I have not loved a woman in a very long time. The queen does not allow me to spend the rest of the night cuddling with a woman. I only sleep with a woman only one round, and it is a financial transaction. I don't even think about a woman's desire. And if I try to fall in love, bad things will happen to me. The only time that I am granted permission to be with a woman is when that woman is on her menstrual cycle. It sounds disgusting to a normal person, but this world that I am living in, this world of money rituals, blood is the only currency that they know. I keep on feeding this marriage of mine that I have with a mermaid so that I can keep on getting all of this money. I have to find women at specific times, and it is not enough just to be with them. There are times when I walk around picking up women's panties, and these women's panties, I use them for rituals. I soak them in a tub, and when the water has a red color to it, then I get into the tub, remove the sanitary pads that I would have picked up from people's refuse bins. Then I start to bath myself, and then the mermaid will appear. Then we make love. I go to the most expensive clubs around Gauteng looking for women that I can lure back to my place with money. I do not want their love. I don't want their bodies. All that I want is the period blood. And when a girl leaves my house, they think that I'm just a weird guy who loves to sleep with women when they are on their period, but they don't know that I have to keep on doing this. Brother Nashi, this is a struggle that I have been having. I have to constantly steal women's panties from their homes as well, because I used to have this other woman. She used to help me to source panties from women. She would go around, but now that woman, I don't know if she died. The last thing that I heard from her was that she was going to visit her mom in the Eastern Cape, and when I tried to speak to her, her phone was going to voicemail. I used to give her money, and she would go around asking women for their used panties. One day, since I am doing everything for myself, I have to collect these panties for my own self. I can even go to Orange Farm, or maybe driving a normal car, and then I start to walk around wearing normal clothes as if I also stay in Orange Farm. And if I see that there is a room that is open, I rush into that room and I quickly search if I can find any used panty, even in a laundry basket. One for me is better than not having anything, and I can steal. I don't steal TVs or laptops. I only steal the panties that are not washed in women's rooms. Sometimes I go and I find out that the room, it belongs to a man. Then I quickly exit that room. But if the room belongs to a woman, I will try to steal as many panties as possible. And usually I can even stay in a location, rent a room, then I'll be going around looking for a room to enter into and to steal the panties. There was even one time when I was nearly caught. This is what happened. I was walking around. It was on a Tuesday morning out near the N3 highway towards Heidelberg. I had not yet sacrificed to the Queen of the Sea for days. He had been screaming in my head for many days. She wanted something fresh. So I drove my Raptor out towards this other farm compound where farm workers stay. And I parked my Raptor in a thicket of trees about 2 kilometers away from this other farm. I walked towards that small farm, and I saw that there were some houses. I walked, my brother, wearing normal clothes as if I was a farm worker. When I walked, I saw that the farm compound, it was quiet. The men and the women, they were in a nearby field with their tractors and they were working. I moved really fast. I went to the back of the third house and I saw that the window was open. Saw that the room belonged to a woman because there were clothes that were inside a bucket, as well as a women's tight that was in there as well. I looked around and I looked around and I did not see anything. Then I tried to open the door, but it was locked. I then saw this other metallic bar and I went and I broke the door and I got inside. I quickly collected the panties. There were about 10. Some, they were washed, but they were packed, neatly packed. I just took everything and I said I will see later on after I would have returned back to my car. Then I will throw away the clean panties. Whilst I was grabbing everything, panties, anything that I could find, that was when I had, "Hey, wenzani wena?" and I looked around and I saw it was an old man. He was holding a knockberry and he could not run because he was quite old. And he was like, "Thief, Geveng, thief." He screamed at me. And then I started running really fast. Since we were at the compound, the other people in the field, they did not hear us. This man, he tried to throw stones at me. I ran and I was changing direction. And by the time that he ran to the field, I was very far from him, but I was also far from my car because I ran towards an opposite direction. I had to go into this massive maize field and I just sat in there throughout the day. I even had people walking around talking about a thief that was nearly caught and they did not know that I was inside that maize field. I lay in that maize field even when they were irrigating the maize. I kept on lying in that field. I waited and I waited until when it was around 6 p.m. and I was afraid that I was going to step on top of a snake and it was going to bite me. And when the sun had gone down, then I walked towards my car and then I got into the car and I drove back to Joburg. I laughed at myself. I could not even know which panty was dirty and which one was clean. I later apologized to the mermaid when I returned back to Santon because it was not my problem. So these are some of the things that I do in order for me to keep on impressing this mermaid who gives me money. It is a lonely lifestyle that I have been living. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear brother. Strange things indeed they do happen in this world. Let us talk with our brother in the comment section. If you have any confession that you want to share with us, please do not hesitate to come to our inbox and share with us your own side of the story.